Well, how's it going, everybody? JT here. It's good to have our friends in the chat here coming off of another episode. We are doing episode 98. This time we're with Markus Haas. Markus from the Ethereum Phone, ethOS at Ethereum Phone on the Reddits or on the Twitter. Sorry, if you want to go check that out. Say hello to the world, my friend. Good to have you here.
Hey, what's up? Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, man. JT here on behalf of the Ethfinance Daily General Discussion from our Ethereum community from Reddit. And a big thanks to the EV Mavericks for hosting yet another happy hour for this day, February 7, 2025. Give us a thumbs up, smash the bells of wherever you see this podcast. And we're really glad that Markus could join us here. So we're gonna jump right into this interview with you. We're gonna change this show format moving forward. We're gonna give our guests the benefit of getting right off the talking points right out of the chute here. And the cool thing is we got a few friends on the Discord stage as well who may have some questions for you. This is a really laid back podcast, but we got a lot of really fun and interesting and intellectual people to help out with questions as we proceed. So, Markus, give us a brief overview what ethOS is all about in the Ethereum Phone.
Yeah, sure. So 3 years ago, we started building the Ethereum Phone, and so which basically is ethOS. What we found at the time was that when we wanted to create a mobile dApps, we found that the experience for the users was really shit, and also for developers, it was like horrible to develop for it. And so we thought to ourselves, what would an OS look like where you would put Ethereum on the system layer, and what user experience unlocks would that have, and also what kind of security upgrades would that come with. And so we started building it then. We started out as just having it as a regular bring your own device. People could buy their own Pixel, go to our website and install it, one-click install. And ever since then, we basically sold some Pixels as well, because people it was like really hard to get the right Pixel. It had to be bootloader unlocked. Some vendors actually lied about the bootloader being unlocked. And so, and then we thought to ourselves, like, what we found was that people were not really ready yet to give up their iPhone for a crypto phone. And this is with any crypto phone, not just ours, just because of the ecosystem lock-in from Apple. And so we thought to ourselves, hey, instead of making that, let's make a secondary device that is super fun, that you just carry around with you. It's not a phone, so it doesn't have to be like a boring black brick. And so we really went ham with the design, and what we came up with is this device. This is the Degen 1.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And this is the on-chain everyday carry. I still have a plastic thing here. Let me just peel that off for you.
That was a very nice peel. Good job.
Always satisfying, yeah.
Always satisfying. Okay, Very good. So approximately 4 inches by 3 inches, maybe 4.5 by 3.5 inches, somewhere in there?
Yeah, it's like 4 inches, one-to-one screen, so it's like a perfect square.
Okay, just like me. So so let's go back one step. It's not a phone. Mm-hmm. But it is a mobile device. Does it pair with your phone at all for like signing transactions, or what? How does that work?
So not right now. What you can do is you can put a SIM in it for data, or you can like pair it with your phone for like data. But right now, all the key management and also using dApps will all happen on this device.
Oh, that's neat. So it just connects to Wi-Fi, and you can sign transactions just directly over Wi-Fi. There's no cell component to it. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. And is it running on like a Android type of base? Is that where we're going with it?
Yeah, exactly. So we took Android and forked it and basically put features for Ethereum into the system layer. And so, yeah, just upgrading the user experience, the reason also why we went with Android is because of the wide, developer tooling already available. All of the apps already exist for Android. So it's like, because you're not going to be recognizing Android on this device when you use it, but you can still, I don't know, open up Twitter on this device if you want to.
Interesting. So it will accept other apps from the store, so to speak. You will be able to still use it as a multifunctional device, not a one-off pony. Can you go back to the bootloader part of that answer when you started the interview? The bootloader, you were saying that something about the bootloader wasn't unlocked?
Exactly. Yeah. So with Pixels, they're made by Google. And so Google, basically Google, when you buy a Pixel from Google itself, they allow you to put on a different operating system.
Gotcha.
But some vendors like T-Mobile, they actually don't want you to put on another OS. So for example, when you buy it from T-Mobile and you have like a 2-year lock-in, they don't want you to bypass the T-Mobile lock-in and get a different thing, right?
Gotcha.
And so they don't allow you to put on on it a different OS, which was one of the things that was really annoying.
Yeah, it's kind of like
now with our own hardware. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say it's kind of like the illusion of owning your home, right? You don't really own everything. Okay, so that makes sense. So they've been able to vendor lock it, and that makes sense. So okay, when did this first come to your mind that I'm going to make something like this?
Well, so the idea began in late 2021. So for me, I was just thinking to myself, like, maybe I could do something like this. But really, I started working on it when it was like a random day. I was scrolling Twitter, and there was one guy on Twitter, and he was like saying, yo, we need this. We need an OS for Ethereum. And I just replied to him like, yeah, this sounds like a nice weekend project for me. And so that's how it started.
It's a nice weekend project. That was a good one, man.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's loaded, man.
Yeah.
So
you're the long weekend.
You're one of these guys that you didn't just come up with. You're not one of these guys like me. It's like comes up with an idea, and then lets it park there because you don't know how to code it. You actively went after this. And I'm sure you've had many, many long days and nights trying to ham through it, and getting to the point where you have a prototype in your hand. That's a pretty satisfying feeling. So do you assemble these with a partner? Is there a partner company that does the assembling for you and has all the quality control on all the devices? Or are you making these by hand but yourself, or do you have a team? How is that sausage made?
Yeah. We have a partner company that has experience with that and is basically creating those devices. And then we handle basically the OS and the software to do it. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. So I want to make sure we get some people on stage that might have some questions. If you want to unmute, we got B Smokes, we got LogrisTheBard here on Discord, and they've always got something to add or ask team. So fire away.
But actually, I have something to add from your last question
sure.
regarding like team doing it by hand. Not anymore, but with our last phone sale, we actually had a guy in Colorado. His name's Steven. And we basically, when we sold the devices, we first shipped all the phones to him. So he had a garage full of phones.
Shout out to Steven in Colorado.
Yeah. A great guy.
Is he going to be at ETH Denver?
Yes, he actually will be there.
Oh, okay. Well, I have to say hi to Steve. I'll be looking out for Steven.
Yeah, and then he flashed and packaged the devices by himself and then sent them out. It was really,
What did he approach you on Twitter also? He's like, I want to do this for you.
No.
I want to sit in my garage in freezing ass Colorado and assemble these things all day. Which it's not a bad gig. But how did you meet him?
Yeah, no, he's actually a friend of my co-founder, so like a childhood friend. So. Someone who already is in crypto and, someone we could trust to just give 200 pixels to.
That's well, you gotta love it. You gotta love the homebrew aspect of all this stuff, because when companies are just getting started, you really do have to. You have to, outsource to Steven every now and then because it's just it becomes too much for Markus and his friend to do by themselves. So Steven was your first employee, so to speak, and now you got a company that handles it. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Logri, do you have any questions or B smokes? Go ahead, fire away.
There's a huge gap between having a design and then getting someone to manufacture it, and then whatever hands are actually putting it together, right?
Mm-hmm.
How, like when it was just a pixel, or when it was just a modification of a existing thing that someone taken care of, that sounded much easier. I mean, I'd be pretty scared of the lift of going like, well, now I have to go to find a Chinese manufacturer and give them the schematic, and there's a minimum order size of like, at least 10,000 units, or they'll even talk to you, and now I have to shell out all this money up front on like a dream. And that means if I'm not to use my own money, now I have to find financing, and oh shit, now there's lawyers involved. Now it's international law. Those aren't cheap lawyers. And the second you would propose something like that to me, my mind would just spiral, and all the complexities I'm about to take on. You just not think of those things, or you just be like, I'll figure it out, like total faith in yourself, or you go like, this is worth it, and you go in eyes open. What is your mind going like when you decide to pivot to, we're going to make our own hardware?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was our goal from the beginning to do our own hardware, and so it was just the logical next step for us. It's with like all of those things that you mentioned. Yes, those were big things that were on my mind, and I was thinking like, damn, it's gonna be hard. But yeah, so for example, with like the minimum order quantity, before our sale of the Degen, for the Degen 1, we now sold like 6,000 units, and before we did the sale, we only sold 250 ethOS devices. So it was like a big stress factor for me, especially, to think about, okay, will there be thousands and thousands of orders, or will this just be, it? But thankfully, we kind of did it right. I don't know. I think I really appreciate what is a guy on our team named Anthony. He does like our marketing and business, BD type stuff, and overall, jack of all trades. And he just made the marketing for the Degen 1 like really top notch. It became really viral, and also, it was another thing like with the laser. The device has a laser on it, and so we weren't sure, are people gonna love it or not, or are people gonna be like, oh my god, that's so stupid.
Pew pew laser, come on! Like,
yeah,
and it became beams.
And if you buy 2 of them, you hold them up to your eyes, and then you just walk around the conference.
Yeah.
That's
one is fine. You just walk around like the cutest. It's okay.
Oh, God, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's always hard. Hardware's hard, because
do you have to write a lot of onboarding material? Like, I know JT has worked with Grid Plus, and like for their lattice, he had to make all these videos that showed like how to set the thing up and how to do all the administration, all the various functions, because people just find that material and they sit through it a lot easier than a user manual, which for some reason like exactly. I mean, people, whether it's their pride or some antiquated notion of manliness or something in JT's case, right? They hate reading the manual, right? So for some reason, I'll watch a video instead. Did you have to write a lot of onboarding material? How is your ongoing support for these devices?
Yeah, so basically we'll definitely like create content for the Degen 1 like that. We actually also did already create content like this for the last device. For the last ethOS device, where we just made like a YouTube video where it's like, welcome to ethOS, and it just like puts the user through like on a journey where they learn, okay, this is how to do a transaction on ethOS, So they kind of get a grip on that. But I completely agree with you. Like it's it's definitely like a lot of work and a lot to think about. And I'm really grateful that I have like people on my team that do this do this and think about this, because I'm mostly thinking about code. I'm mostly the lead software engineer, and so but obviously at a startup everyone's job is everything. So I definitely also help out with like things that Anthony can't do, but he usually manages on his own and does pretty nicely.
I assume this is executing inside a trust execution environment.
Yes.
Okay. Is it any different having to program the software for running inside a TEE?
So the thing is, we actually don't need to write the software for the TEE, because so that's a big thing coming now to the new Degen 1 that we didn't have in prior ethOS versions. So prior ethOS versions, you would have an EOA, and this Ethereum private key you can't store on the trusted execution environment because it doesn't support the elliptic curve of Ethereum. But with and so what we did was we basically put a key in the secure enclave that was used as the encryption key. It basically has the same security guarantees, but still it's like a key that is encryptedly stored on the device. So now with the Degen 1, we actually are I actually now just finished implementing it. It's going to be an 457 account abstracted wallet on the OS level, where the private key is actually an P256 key that is directly on the trusted execution environment in the secure enclave. So and this code already exists for the secure enclave, and it's very easy to create like keys for that. And we're just basically making the OS level wallet account abstracted and then emulating an EOA for so I don't want basically the developer or the user having to worry about the user ops or like anything else. So I basically made it so that it's just like emulating an EOA to the user so they can just use it.
Okay. The two questions I know anyone approaching this device is going to ask, because it's very similar to a Lattice or a Ledger or a Trezor or something, right? One is we've had issues in the past with Ledger and privacy, both data leaks. And of course, with them saying, but we can extract your private key anytime we want, after saying that was physically impossible.
Horrible. So horrible.
Yes, you're probably familiar with both of these.
Yeah.
I'm sure the people who are approaching your device would have a similar intuition of asking, prove to me that can't happen, right? How are you going to manage any data that I give you so that either I'm not giving you sensitive data or that you can't lose it? And two, how can you prove to me that you cannot extract the private key?
Yeah, so the second one is much easier. We basically open source the code, and you can then just take a look at our implementation of the key management, which makes it so that the key in the secure enclave can only be used in the basically Android key store, can only be used to sign or verify messages. So there's no export key button whatsoever. The only way to recover is actually, 457 recovery. But the first thing, that is obviously much harder. And I actually know a friend who's been affected by the Ledger leaks of
now you know two friends.
Personal. Damn.
It's happened to a lot of us in the community.
Yeah,
so I'm just asking because I know both these will be very common thoughts that anyone approaching the device will have.
Yeah. Regarding this, really need to think about. Do you have like a suggestion? Because there
are FAG databases, for example. Obviously, you can use things like zero knowledge proofs for people to give you just the information you need. Are you over 21 without revealing a specific birth date? You can use things like proxy email addresses. So, you can encourage people to just, even in education, a very light touch approach, to say, don't give us your main email address. Here is what we suggest, which is to create a proxy email address that you can revoke if it ever gets leaked, right? So it'd be like LogrisTheBard or Logri dgen1.tokenomicsexplained, or maybe it'd be, hold on, I'll back up a step. It would be dgen1.tokenomicsexplained.com or something, right? Would be the email address. And then if that gets leaked, I just revoke dgen1, right? And most bots aren't smart enough to try and figure out that tokenomics explained is related to like logri.tokenomicsexplained is the main one, right?
Right.
So that's on the user side. But on your side, obviously there's things you can do with zero knowledge proofs or FHE in order to maintain the user privacy during processing. Not always efficient to do at scale, but if you're talking about a relatively minimal record on user data, probably viable, right? Then the user would basically have to give a decryption key to authorize every time the information is unlocked and utilized, which might be okay in your case, right?
Yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah.
Right? So you could message to them and say, you have to authorize the release of this information. That'd be part of your user agreement. The information will always be stored in an encrypted form that you can't access without their consent. Obviously, once it is decrypted, then whatever person you gave it to, they have to maintain security on their own end, unless it was decrypted for a ZK proof purpose, right? Or you gave them the ZK proof instead of the raw data. But there are some things that you can do. The other thing is just, we don't have your data because we never received it. Everything is outsourced to some other company that's going to lose your data instead, which of course sounds very clean, but in practice just punts the problem. Then, the same thing happens one line down. Right. So the second you I outsourced another marketing company, and then you're BlockFi and you leaked all your data because the marketing company did, you're still up shit creek without a paddle, right? Like people still blame you for, even though it wasn't even your company. So it sounds very good initially, but it really is just punting the problem, and it doesn't reduce the liability as much as you'd hope. So I do support more of the either use a ZK proof and instead of having the raw data, or FHE encryption if you can do it in a scalable enough way, which is questionable.
I wonder if it's doable, because like the thing that we need, the information, is like a name and an address, and probably also a phone number for delivery.
Yeah, exactly. So you'd say, look, we had to give the post office something to mail it to, right? Okay, that's fine, but we don't store your raw address. And if there is a return to us, then we're going to reach out to you and ask for an unlock of your encrypted phone number so that we can try to reach out to you and correct the information, right? Or email, right? I think that email is a little bit cleaner than phone number for that purpose, because if you lose a phone number, there's no way to have a proxy phone number. You can use something like Google Voice, I guess, but people just don't. Whereas it's much easier to use, like just out the box, to use a proxy email. Revocable.
Totally agree. Cool. Can you explain again? Can you link me to you said an FAG database?
FHE, fully homomorphic encryption. Yes, there.
Okay. Fully homomorphic encryption. Yeah. Okay.
Don't get us canceled.
It just means that you can do processing on the data while it's in the encrypted space, depending on. If you're doing things like loops over the data or complicated if conditions on the data, it gets really thorny, because how do you know if you went left or right at the fork if you don't know anything about the data? So the full computation cost is basically the worst possible execution path for every record, because otherwise you're leaking something about the data. And every time you do in the math of it, the reason that this is possible, basically there's like a security budget in your bit space. So you get a larger number, I think like 128-bit number, and then some number of bits, like 16 of them are your security budget. And every time you do like an add, multiply, whatever on the data, you're using up some of your security budget. So occasionally you have to re-checkpoint it, which is another expensive operation. So there are reasons this isn't just done everywhere all the time. But for certain things, like, for example, let's say that Google says, you're you, here's your JWT, right? Google could just always make a JWT that says, I'm you. Google can impersonate you anytime they want on any service that you own, and you have no recourse the second you said, I'm going to sign in with Google, right? They basically can not just deplatform you, they could have the government subpoena them and assume your online persona and do all kinds of evil. That wouldn't be possible if you had FHE authorization. You could do something like biometrics, and you could do FHE on the biometrics, and I could authorize you as an anonymous participant who knows nothing about you. I could calculate whether you are who you say you are using your biometric, and then return a claim that anyone can verify because it's a ZK proof, right? and we could use that for authorization instead. And then no one can impersonate you, right?
Mhm.
And that is that's a small enough operation. It can be done on a single machine, thousands of them per second. So, scalable enough, right? We could build an actively validated service for this and do it in a depend way if we wanted to, right? So there are some really important use cases. Also cases where the law, like for HIPAA reasons, there's like medical data that cannot be shared, right? Because of certain privacy laws in the US and Europe. And so if you're going to do computation on the data, and you want to do that through servicing through a third party because you're a hospital and you don't have a big data center wing, right? Like it's not your thing. You have to do it in an FHE space for legal reasons. So either do or die causes people to use FHE, or certain hot critical security areas like what you're describing, right? You need this information, but it's actually a security threat to people is the other common use case for FHE. I'm happy to rant on this forever, but you're the guest. I don't want to steal your spotlight.
No, I think it's super interesting. Thanks for letting me know. No, really.
I'm telling you, when you got on this podcast, I was telling you, I'm like, you're walking into a focus group. Like you get free. This is a free consultancy service when we have guests on here sometimes.
Yeah.
Logri, you just met an awesome person. That's LogrisTheBard, tokenomicsexplained.com. Go ahead, Markus.
Yeah, no, that's definitely also something that we were thinking about because my co-founder was affected by this ledger breach. And so thank you for letting me know concrete examples of how to implement it technically, because I'm usually a person that doesn't like thinking about super high level we're going to disrupt crypto with money or something like that. I usually like thinking about the implementation.
I think Zama has a concrete library that's Turing complete, so you should be able to do almost any coding that you want to do through the Zama library. And there are FHE databases, or you can just treat it as a byte array in a standard database, right? Just an unknown byte array, a data type, and then cast it when you get to the code. So there are some pretty well-developed, well-funded libraries at this point that you can use if you want to take a all to solve this in a weekend approach to it.
Hack it in a weekend, he said. It was a good.
It's been a long weekend.
That's a long weekend.
Yeah.
And
or
here,
Ethenverse coming up, you can just hackathon it, man. Whatever.
Right.
Who needs to attend the conference?
True.
Logri's talking about all the important things with Markus here on the Mavericks podcast. And I keep looking at the device. Can you hold it up to the camera one more time? So I'm looking at the device, and you know what it looks like to me? This looks like a fun, almost like a handheld Game Boy type of platform where you could have I'm thinking okay, you got this Ethereum wallet in there and we got layer 2 scaling, right? So you could make it into like a 1980s arcade, and you actually have to spend a quarter to play the game each time you want to play it by using layer 2 tokens, but then maybe make a portion of the admission fee to play the, for lack of a better, Flappy Bird type of game with your friends or something like that, to where there's a pot that gets accumulated. You could have like a gaming tournament thing with a little 8-bit thing. But see, anybody could code for it because it's like an Android-based thing. It'd be kind of neat to on purpose make 8-bit casual games on there, but you don't just get it from the store one time. You have to pay a quarter every time you go into it, and then do like a rolling jackpot thing, with a portion of the proceeds. I don't know. It's kind of neat. Because even the game developer, each time somebody plays the game developer could get their cut. Ethereum phone operating system could get its cut or whatever. Yeah, that's the other thing that's so cool about crypto and is the low barrier of entry to get royalties put where they need to be by content creators. And so could you imagine a game that only works, it only works on Ethereum OS devices? For instance, I don't know, kind of something I was just musing on. I don't get it.
Honestly sounds like a fun game.
Yeah, just like a casual gaming, make something purpose built for. It's intriguing, and I always love people that try to do hardware. I mean, hardware it is there's a lot to it. Like Logri was saying, I used to work for Grid Plus. They didn't allow me into the factory where they're produced for good reasons, because I'm like a China bull in a China bull closet, and I kind of knock stuff over all the time. So it'd be cool. That device company's interesting because it's U.S. based, and they do all their R&D and their engineering down in Austin, and they have this company that they have all these really tight quality controls going on, and they have their own like secure enclave and their tamper mesh that goes onto the lattice. And I mean, it's a big device, and it's different, than the other hardware wallets that are out there. And always the number one thing, going to Logri's point again about customer data and ledger and the absolute travesty that was rained down on people with their data loss through their Shopify partner. Grid Plus like nukes all their customer data as soon as things are fulfilled. They hang on to customer data, at least when I worked there, they did, for as long as it took to get through the warranty period, and then it's just poof, gone. So that kind of allows that attack vector, the space down, the ability to get people hacked or whatever. I don't know who's called me. See, it's another spammer. Ever since that ledger, that ledger thing, I have more freaking spam in my inbox, crypto related, than anybody ever ought to have. Go ahead, Logri.
The other thing I usually like to ask guests is, what can our community do to support you, and how can we work together, right? What can we do to enrich each other? So obvious example is we could go and get a treasure. We could go to our treasury of NFTs, and we could trade one for a bunch of devices and then hand them out at ETH Denver or something, right?
That'd be interesting. So
or maybe
the
we can
devices
give you an NFT and then raffle off the devices to our community or something.
Yeah. So the thing is, the device won't ship until will ship in Q2, so it won't be ready yet for Denver. But we'll have a few prototypes to like show off, and
we're going to Steven's garage. Come on, everybody!
We're setting a new conference, right? Just
quick trip to Boulder.
I'll have to invite Steven to the barbecue.
Yeah.
So, but when the time comes, do think about that. And as Logri was saying, I did all the technical, like on camera, like how to use the Lattice once, and I'd be happy to try my hand at doing one for you guys too, just to help out and take a look at it. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, we've got resources in the community that do education material. JT does some onboarding. Certainly my company does as well. But we've got good technical writers. Certainly, if you'd like to come by and drop by the daily post that we have, you can do something that showcases what you have and see if you can get some community questions and engagements. But basically, it's just another marketing arm. Not saying you personally have to do it, but someone from your team, sure, drop by. And as I said, if you want to enjoy the EV Maverick community, we can probably arrange a trade of an NFT for a bunch of devices and give those out to our community.
That would be awesome.
That'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be cool. Are you guys going to be at ETH Denver?
I will be. Yes,
I will be there.
Right.
I will be there Tuesday, and then B Smokes is up on stage. There's going to be a barbecue for his company. I'll be cooking at that. That's a short list of people that can get into that one. If he wants to share it, he can put it in the chat. I don't know what the situation is, but I'll be doing barbecue there, and then I'll be doing barbecue at a Green Pill Airbnb the very next night. I'm going to be a tired baby. Boy, howdy. I'm going to be cooking for anywhere from 150 to 200 people over the course of those 2 days. And then, yeah. So I do pulled pork and stuff. If you're in the air at ETH Denver, like you said you were, get Steven and give me a ping. If anything, we'll try to meet up off site. But I'll try to get it to go platter for you guys if you can't come into the private event. So, but I don't think it'll be too much of a problem.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a private event for a reason, but the reason is to invite our friends and close people, and so with that, it's, we're going to invite our partners and especially the EVM Mavericks. And so if anyone here is going to be, I just dropped the link to the event in the chat. So if you're going to be in East Denver, anyone here, obviously come on through. Just when you apply, make sure that you say that, I referred you, or EVM referred you, or GT referred you, something to make it obvious that we're, that you're coming in. And I would also appreciate if you signed up for the pistachio waitlist. I put it on as a litmus test, within the event application, like, sign up and you're more likely to get accepted. And so many people don't sign up. And I'm like, come on, can you not see the test here?
Yeah.
Like, we're sponsoring the event. You sign up for the waitlist, you're more likely to get in.
There you go.
Right.
So sign up for the waitlist for Pistachio 5. I love it. And there was something else I was going to riff on this phone. Oh, okay. So yes, this is it. I wanted to go to your site. So let's go. Let's do this. Let's start on X. If you want to follow Markus's project, it's at Ethereum Phone. Boy, you're lucky you got that Twitter handle, huh? You got that one. This is early days, man. I love that.
I mean, yeah. The funny thing was, at the time, no one, it was considered, people were calling us crazy and stupid for trying to create an Ethereum phone.
Yeah,
that was way even before the Solana phone. It was not even in the hemisphere of people.
Yeah, it was. I remember this project. I didn't realize it was as far back as 2021, but I certainly remembered seeing the marketing push very much so in the last, I think, full year. There's been a little more ramp up with it. And then from there, you'll go to the site freedomfactory.io. And then on this site, there it is, Meet Degen1, the on-chain EDC. And then when you go to buy, it'll open up another thing here. Go ahead.
On the Freedom Factory website, it's not obvious, but you can scroll to see much more information, actually.
Okay,
so it's not very obvious.
Oh, that's cool. Let's do it. We're doing it live. Okay, and these are LEDs that light up when you're sending and receiving. Oh
yeah, that's the
so
LED
cool.
matrix.
Very
They're
cool.
Programmable.
Got a grip, got some buttons. Is this a SD card slot here, or is this eventually a SIM card slot?
Yeah, a SIM card, actually. You can put a data SIM in if you'd like to.
Excellent. And we keep scrolling. And the settings. Okay, so this is how the buttons are laid out on it. That's fun. You got to.
Yeah, it's that's not how it's gonna look like though.
Sure.
We're still trying to come up with the most intuitive design for it.
And there's got your laser, microphone, and a USB-C port.
Yeah.
Oh, and then so this will obviously display NFTs and QR codes and everything else as you purchase them using. Okay, so all right, let's do this. So you've got, what is the pre-sale? It's March 1st, right? Is that when it's done? March 1st?
Yeah, we're closing it on March 1st when we're all in ETH Denver.
And who do we have on screen here? This is you, and then you have Steve and Steve and Steve.
Exactly. No, the person right for me, it's his name is Anthony. He's our jack of all trades. The person right to that is Nicola. He's my co-founder. He's also the basically Android app dev. So I'm more of the OS level dev. He's more of the app level main developer. And then Ailey on the far right side, he's the designer.
Good looking team, I have to admit, for a crypto bunch. You guys got your stuff together. You're looking good. Okay, when can I redeem my NFT for Degen1? Let's do that question. Redemptions in spring 2025. We'll be in touch with next steps. What's in the box? Oh, referrals. ethOS, different from Android. Trade ethos. This is cool, man. How do I claim my NFT? Okay, wonderful. And then when you go to pre-order, current price is 0.21 ETH or 137,000 Degen. What is Degen?
Degen, it's like a meme coin on Base. So it's just a funny thing. We wanted to add it to our sale because we know the founder, and he's basically the Degen meme coin. It's like a thing that spawned on Farcaster like a year ago or something like that. Yeah, it was like before Denver, like a month before Denver, and it was like a whole thing. It was like a tipping meta or something like that, where you could basically tip people Degen tokens, and you would have like a per day limit of what you can tip. So there would be like no way for you to earn them, but you can only tip them to other people. And yeah, it's pretty fun, but yeah.
So
it's
just another way to pay for it. And so does the price kind of scale up and down with the markets depending on the price of Degen at the current, epoch or whatever?
Exactly, yeah. It automatically changes to the current price of ETH and Degen. So how it works is actually also pretty cool. On our sales side, if you click on use crypto, you can actually, it uses intent addresses. So yeah, click on any crypto, and now you can pay with any crypto you have in your wallet on any chain. So yeah, if you click on your like I don't know if you want to, if you don't want to,
That's fine.
yeah, you don't have. So imagine you have like a shitcoin on Arbitrum. It would like show the shitcoin on Arbitrum, and you can buy it with one transfer. And how it works is basically using intent addresses. The actual sales contract and the NFTs on base mainnet, the L2, but if you have like some random shitcoin you don't want on Arbitrum, you can like click transfer. It will transfer it to an intent-based address, and this intent-based address would just swap and bridge it all in one go.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
So for you, it's just it's basically from DymoPay. I know the founder of DymoPay, and he's like such a cool dude. And what they came up with is so interesting. You can really like pay with any token you have on any chain with one click, and this works for every use case. So if you want to, like, I don't know, if you want to make it so that you can mint the EVM Maverick NFT with like any token on any chain, you can add DymoPay, and it's completely, self-custodial. So there's like no point where you trust, Dymo not to take your funds or something like that. But it's all through intent addresses. It's really, really interesting tech.
That really helps the user experience too, because you're also able to like scrape out the trash in your wallet. It's kind of like being the asshole at the gas station with a handful of pennies, just paying like 35, 36, 37. Oh man, you don't have to wait. Now it just counts it for you. It'll be like, oh, you don't want this token or that token. Fine, I'll use it to help pay for this. Okay. I plan on buying one of these personally because I always want to support hardware. Hardware is cool. I think hardware is cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
very much.
It's difficult, and I know that you guys have you've worked your butts off, a small team like that, trying to produce something innovative like this. And I hope a lot of Mavericks pile on and do one also. It's really neat.
Well. So one thing, I'm not sure. So basically, for the Degen 1 sale, what we can do is we can create like a discount code.
Token gated NFT discount code for the Mavericks.
It's actually not token gated, sadly, but it's like it's just a discount code that you can use.
That'd be great.
But
let's do it that way. That's great.
We can create like basically like an custom discount code for you. So it has to be 6 characters. EVM Mavericks, EVM Mav maybe. I don't know. That's 5.
It has to be 6 characters.
Yeah. Maybe EVM Mavs. I don't know.
EVM Mav. EVM AV. Let's see.
Oh, you already got EVM DAO. You already have EVM DAO.
EVM.
I wasn't sure.
EVM AVS EVM AVS EV Mavs.
I wasn't sure if there was already a discount code, but there is already one for you guys. It's EVM DAO. Yeah.
Thank you,
I wasn't
Treebeard.
super sure yet.
Okay, so EVM DAO is our discount code. And so that goes for everybody watching on YouTube, which I think is about.
Who may or may not be a DAO member.
May or may not be a DAO member, but we'll take it.
You better be.
We'll take it. So I'm a buyer. I was hoping I could purchase one live on the stream, but I don't have enough shit coins in my wallet to clear the deal. I do have Ethereum though, which has behaved like one a number of times this year.
Oh yeah.
I'm just kidding. Relax. God. So
I love it when a plan comes together.
So we're gonna do this. All right. We're gonna move on with the show unless anybody else has any more questions for Markus. I do have one question. When are you gonna make a Reddit handle?
Oh my God. So I think we did create one like a while ago, like in 2021 where we started. Because
go through password recovery and then swing on by.
Your account will be more than
10 days old.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we'll get your karma taken care of. You'll pass the hurdle. I don't know if you know anything about this community at all, but we ran the Ethfinance subreddit for a long time. The Mavericks were born there. We recently, January 1st, closed Ethfinance, and now our Ethfinance community is our Ethereum. So the main Ethereum subreddit is our home now. And so it's really, really cool. The daily discussion thread gets anywhere from 300 to 1,200 comments a day, and probably 10 times or more of that many amount of eyeballs swing by the subreddit every day. We have a weekly developer discussion thread. Come by every week and put your company's information in there. Just every Sunday it rolls over, and you can just do that, make that part of your Sunday routine, and then come into the daily and just be a community member and read what other people are saying. And eventually, hopefully we got some DGen 1 users in there too that you would be able to survey feedback right there in the daily for any customers that you may have, or you have a press release, or you pushed a new update to it, any number of reasons, and also come and ship posts and just hang out for fun. If you do that, you run the risk of becoming what's called a dooter. And a dooter is somebody who gets nominated to be as part of the top 10 of the Doots of the day. So people can come back and look at the previous day's daily for the top stuff that made the Tricky's Daily Doots list at the top of the daily. You follow me so far? Then every week we take the top 10 or so of those and we create the Weekly Doots, which is the top of the week. And we have this podcast where we have guests like you come on. And now I'm going to read Reddit so you don't have to. And you're welcome to stick around and be a color commentator with us as we go through the top 10. I haven't read them. I have no idea what they are.
You may learn something. You just don't know.
You never know.
Yeah.
It's really like kind of a different way of doing a community. And we've had a good time doing it. If you have some time to stick around, it'd be great. And if
sure.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to get myself some water though. 1 sec.
Yeah, you do that. We'll do that. That sounds good.
Fatality.
He's gone. He left. Okay,
I think you could start.
I think we can
you
just
do
start.
the shit post and stuff.
All right, so here we are. The Weekly Doots live stream is all about showcasing the best of this week from the Ethfinance Daily on Ethereum. It's a read-along reaction series. And if you want to follow along, head on over to dailydoots.com, designed and produced by our very own Hanny Abu. Big thanks to Tricky Troll for capturing each day's Doots and the A word for curating this beloved weekly list. Subscribe to us on Apple and iTunes. Just search Ethfinance EV Mavericks. Also on Libsyn, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to mint this episode, it's your own way of getting a NFT out of this deal. You can do that at pods.media/EV Mavericks. And as always, if you know someone who wants a piece of this action, send them my way. Markus, I think we want to get that Dymo team on here. I think they would have a good time with us too. All right. So we're going to go through the rich list for this last week. By the way, anybody that makes the Daily Doots, they get a point. And our top 10 for this week, we have Set One Less at 105, Hani Abu at 106, cryptOwOcurrency at 109, 696 ETH at 111, Ethical Trade at 113, Tricky Troll at 139, haurog at 148, Benito 2030 at 162, LogrisTheBard at 168, and Superfizz at the top of the list at 219. We have a total of 1,142 duders as of January 31st. Let me refresh this page. Now we're updated. Woo! We had a move. We had cryptOwOcurrency at 112. It looks like he moved up 171, and haurog went up to 153. Okay, I did not have it up refreshed. Adam Bloomberg joining us on Valentine's Day from Interaxis. February 21st is our 100th anniversary, 100th episode, I should say. We have no guest as of now, to be determined. Ram Aliwalia from Lumina Wealth on March 7th. Andy Lower from Scenario Protocol March 14th. And Brett from mhaas on the 21st. And Grant Hummer from Etherealize on March 28th. The EV Mavericks podcast barbecue will be on Wednesday, the 26th at ETH Denver. Still working on releasing the actual location. Make sure you get subscribed for that. All right, here we go. The morning roundup. User Remcheese says, Bitcoin Jesus. Chimes in T and Frank the Tank with an H. Thank you so much. That was very productive. Weekly Haiku by JS Tears. Bytes 256, no matter the politics. Mining blocks, not bricks. That's excellent. How does he do it? JS Tears, a haiku master. And we got some stats from Dr. ETH. The current ETH price at the time of his posting, $27.45 with a negative 2.8% hourly or daily change. Average price over the last 30 days, $31.81. Total inflation since the merge, a big fat goose egg. Total ETF flows, and I think this is in millions, 3,182. Man, the flow is crazy, 336. And the last day was 10.7. Good. Thank you so much for that, Dr. ETH. All right, here comes our first doot. We don't have a shitpost of the week on this one. Looks like CptCrunchHiker shares their vision for the future. All right, imagine this world. Bob wants to send 50 USDC to Alice. He doesn't need to worry about which layer Alice is on because her wallet address encodes that information. Next, Bob wants to deposit 100 USDC into a pool on Aave. He simply selects the highest APY and deposits the funds with a single click without needing to care which layer his USDC is routed through. No more bridges, drop downs, or fragmented pools and markets across 20 different layers. Just one consolidated Ethereum ecosystem. Very well said, nice. CptCrunchHiker. I like that.
Even better, why are we holding USDC? Just hold an interest-bearing version of it, right? Why can't I just send you a USDC, $50 worth of it, right? Like,
True.
Why take it out of an interest-bearing form at all? We should basically have enough technologies that we don't care what layer it's on. We don't have to worry about interop, that we don't have to worry about bridge times, and there may be some transmission fee. You can receive whatever currency you're comfortable holding, but we can keep it in interest-bearing form. I can send whatever currency from whatever account I'm comfortable holding, and it just routes, right? And importantly, we know who owns what at every given time, and we know who takes the loss if everything breaks. And it's much more resilient than the TradFi system without all the stops and without all the middlemen, and what's not to love. It's just such an obvious do-in for the future, right?
I fucking love crypto so much because I basically use it as my, I basically don't use banks anymore because in Austria, banks are kind of a joke. They don't give you any interest on your money. So I just use Aave,
That's
which
basically
is
in the US too.
Okay. I just really love Aave. It's so simple, and it, just wraps your token and you have interest to your, interest-bearing USDC is really fantastic. It's
I'm
like,
much
yeah.
more of it's not exactly degen, but I'm much more into the farming game. So I can go in.
Okay.
I'll be able to pay a couple percent on stable coins, but you can make over 10% on stable coins.
I'm so scared of these stuff because it's always like
I've
I
been
don't know.
doing it for years. I've even had losses. It's still, I've made so much. I'm ahead even with the losses compared to just straight holding. But no doubt, there's more smart contract risk. There's depeg risk between various tokens. You're now you're basically exposed to the worst of X, however many, whatever other exposure you want to have, right?
Mhm.
But you might be able to do easy things. There's other markets like Gearbox, for example, that you might be able to use that have a very similar experience to Aave. It's basically just a money market that people can borrow from without receiving the token. And then they have it in a credit account so they can use it for leverage. And because they can natively use it for leverage, it can get higher. They can do things like looping. And so they're willing to pay a higher APR than if they could only borrow it once, basically, right? So because they can make more money on it, they're willing to pay more in fees, and that translates to a higher rate to you, the lender, while it's still essentially over collateralized, right? So similar risk profile, slightly higher yield, maybe something you'd be comfortable looking into is just a next step for you.
Yeah, I'm really like, I'm very careful of smart. I just really like Aave because it's like, battle proofed. Billions of dollars in this protocol, in those smart contracts, audited to oblivion, by audit companies and for sure also the DPRK. And I'm just like chilling on a low API level.
The Lazarus Group has definitely audited that one for free for us. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, Marcus, I forgot to ask one question about the device. Is it legal to purchase anywhere in the world, or are you guys region locked to any place?
So I would say North Korea is probably an area where you can't buy it, but I would say it's like we're an American company, and so we abide by the export restrictions from the US. So Russia is a no-go, for example. Yeah.
Okay, that answers that question. I forgot to ask that earlier. Thank you. By the way, CptCrunchHiker is a relative newcomer to the Doots with a Dooter score of 2. So great job. All right, user haurog. This is a wonderful contributor. Makes the weekly almost every week, I believe. Share some updates from the latest all-core dev call. Here's your update. There's still some smaller issues on DevNet 5, so client teams agreed to wait for DevNet 6 to make a final decision with upgrading Sepolia and Haleshki. It seems like this will delay the timeline by about a week, which means testnet upgrades might happen on the 19th for Haleshki and 26th for Sepolia of February. With this timeline, upgrading mainnet in March is easily still possible. Let's see if March 11th, which some people talked about as doable, or if it will be a few days later. Then they had a longer discussion about possible ways to speed up the Ethereum upgrade cycle. There were many points discussed. One interesting suggestion was doing things more parallel in the sense that the scoping phase for the next upgrade could be done before the current upgrade hits mainnet. Neithermind Dev even suggested to be more aggressive and even do the implementation phase for the next upgrade before the current upgrade is on mainnet. It is generally agreed that some changes in the process will be necessary, but we will see in which direction and with what first steps this will happen. There is some more discussion in the Pectra retrospective thread, and there's a link at dailydoots.com. Finally, there was also a discussion about recommended bandwidths for validators. It is a contentious topic, and there is an effort to define it. Currently, discussion is around recommending 25 to 50 megabits per second upload, depending on how the validator builds blocks. We will see if people can gravitate towards the number soonish to use it to design their clients. Here's the document where one core dev write down possible ways forward and limitations about bandwidth. Thank you so much, haurog. LogrisTheBard explains the RocketPool of LSTs. Boy, I'm going to get a drink of water. This guy can put it down on paper. Let me tell you what. In my restaking post, I said I'd like to see a, quote, rocket pool for LRTs. What does this mean? Well, imagine you're a home staker today with some excess bandwidth and disk space on your Ethereum validator, and you want to sell this extra capacity to EigenDA. How do you get someone to delegate to you? In EigenLayer, the capital provider has to first deposit their LST, then they have to select a node operator and delegate that deposit to them. As a node operator, how does someone discover you, and why do they trust you? You're probably on page like 100 of the EigenLayer node operator listings, and even if someone searches down in the dregs, there's not a whole lot of metadata about these node operators someone could use to vet you, even if they wanted to. You are beneath the profit margin bar of an LRT protocol like Kelp to be worth vetting. So basically, you either delegate capital to yourself, which limits how much compute you can provide by how much capital you have, or you don't get to participate. But excluding all these operators strongly centralizes the node operator set for AVSs of all kinds, which is pretty unhealthy outcome. To change this, we need to invert capital deployment from a push model like EigenLayer uses to a pull model like RocketPool uses. Rather than a capital provider delegating directly to a node operator, the node operator requests delegation from a pool of funds. This way, the node operator doesn't need to be discovered, which is obviously better for smaller operators you've never heard of. When the node operator requests delegation, though, why do capital providers trust the node operators not to do something malicious? For centralized LRTs, all of them today, the LRT serves as a risk underwriter in the selecting curated node operators and AVSs to delegate capital to. What's the parallel here? Well, usually the node operator will have to have something at stake to equivalent to the RPL stake a RocketPool node operator has to provide. However, this is going to be a lot more complicated than it is just for ETH staking. RocketPool has had multiple years to settle on the appropriate fee split and collateralization rules for just one type of compute, and yet they are still undergoing dramatic redesigns in their tokenomics to change these dynamics today. So how do you manage the all collateralization rules, fee split rules, and build liquidity on an LRT so it's actually liquid when there are going to be hundreds of AVSs instead of just ETH staking, and when the risk appetite of capital providers is so diverse? My answer is, instead of trying to wrangle everyone into a single LRT under a single DAO, you need a marketplace of many LRTs that can fight for mindshare. Right now, with the centralized LRTs, there are about half a dozen of different points on the risk spectrum that have representation, and the policy of the risk underwriting for each team is entirely opaque. I'd prefer a system where anyone can build their own LRT that represents their risk profile, where hundreds of points can be represented, and which can evolve with this rapidly expanding space. Melo is building this. You should all be hyped. And there's Melo protocol, docs.melo.finance. Okay, Logri, pour on the beans. What is Melo? They're doing this, huh?
They're doing this. I just described it.
That's
right?
it.
So we're, instead of having just a single LRT, we're going to have a marketplace for them. We're going to have a contract that you can provide a zero knowledge proof to of some type, or you can have that. It's a delegate function, right? So that's every LRT is going to have a policy within it that describes who gets what percent of the income. So what goes to the node operators, what goes to the capital providers, what goes to the LRT administration. That would be people that want to, for example, bribe or in order to get liquidity, or pay themselves for the work they use to promote it. And what percent goes to the platform, right? And so you're going to have the fee split logic. You're going to have a policy in there that when someone requests delegation, they have to prove that they are trustworthy for that delegation. What does that look like? Well, smart contract functions can refer to anything on-chain, and zero-knowledge proofs can validate anything off-chain. So you'll be able to build whatever delegate function you want in order to prove that you are or the LRT is going to allow people to prove that they are acceptable for delegating capital to. And hopefully we'll get hundreds of these different LRTs in there. So all different points in the risk spectrum are well represented. And then the last thing is governance, right? So on top of that layer, you're going to have you're going to have to be able to change these policies, because if every time a new AVS came online, you have to like unwind the entire liquidity pool and then wind up another LRT with a different policy, it's just not going to work, right? You may have some long-standing ones that choose to make themselves immutable, but basically you are going to need to be able to change it. And I don't trust the LRT operator to change their rules without supervision, because they'll just rug eventually, right? One will. We can prevent that outcome. So we can create a governance system that lives on top of this, that audits specifically the policy changes to make sure that the policies don't include rugme.exe. And that's a value add that we'll just extract a platform fee for. And so there will be a new DAO on top of the system, on top of everything else I just built, that's going to keep everyone safe. And that's basically what we're trying to build here. So it's going to probably use the Melo token, or a new token that we'll launch, and we're going to expand the participants in AVSs to decentralize not just the set of node operators in EigenLayer and Symbiotic, because they're a Symbiotic first org. But hopefully all the services that we're going to come to depend on are going to become more decentralized because of that, right? And that's going to include everything from AI to proof of location services, data availability services. Basically, restaking can be used anytime you want to trust some anonymous person to honor a commitment on the internet, right? So, that could be Uber, right? That could be DoorDash. That could be, I promise I'll do daycare or something, right? If maybe not that case, because if your kid dies, I don't know if you care about a monetary penalty of some delegated capital. But you get my point. This is basically the entire, right? The scope of what restaking can enable in a capital efficient way is basically the entire gig economy. It's a massive opportunity. And I think that right now we have severely handicapped it by the model that we use, this push model that we use for capital. So we can unlock all of that. We can do it in a safe way. We can help to bring a lot of that, a lot of people that are currently excluded from that system, and break the sort of cartel system that has emerged out of the whitelisting aspects currently in EigenLayer. We can break all that out into a more transparent and fair and equal opportunity type of system, which is what blockchains are all about. So I'm happy to be helping them with that.
Good deal. Keep us posted on it. Maybe we'll have to get you on the podcast sometime.
Get them on the podcast, sure. Yeah, I can get Nick on.
Let's do it. All right. Thank you, Logri. Canadians 1993 is reminded of why they are invested in ETH. I always love posts like this. Canadians 1993 is a Duder number 12. Actually, that's a fairly old account too on Reddit, I believe. All this geopolitical and trade tension just reminds me why I'm invested in ETH. Decentralization and censorship resistance doesn't matter until it does. Bitcoin, or BTC, is the primer, a decentralized and censorship-resistant commodity. But other than holding it, you can't do much. Peel the onion and you have Ethereum and ETH, a similar commodity, but with a rich ecosystem allowing functionality. In plain English, you could do real shit with it. It will matter in these times. Markets always overreact to bad news, but over time, it rationalizes. Time horizons matter here. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. And there you have it. Short and sweet and to the point. I like it. I like it a lot. User Kallukoras, Duder number 14, has a warning for anyone considering using leverage. While user SpeedDemon92, great username, is seeing the crash, I see what you did there, A-word, as an opportunity, much like last time. All right, Kallukoras says, a never use leverage story. I thought in December the ETH BTC is so low, why not make a small long 2.5x leverage, 5% of my portfolio on that? As ETH BTC fell, I put more and more into it it has to reverse now. ETH BTC is lower than for 4 years. And January and February are always good months. 0.3 will hold. Now the position had around 50% of my ETH stack into it. And then today happens. I'm lucky. I didn't get liquidated yet, but I'm only a couple percent away from liquidation. And now I have to now I may have to dump more into it. Close it or don't touch it and hope. All options feel horrible. Never use leverage, not even low in the market. Speed Demon 92 responds. Do you remember Black Thursday? Speed Demon 92 is a duder number 5. Remember Black Thursday? I remember. And then the absolute tear ETH went on in the following months after that plunge. I thought $80 was the end of my ETH. My positions were in shambles. My faith in the fundamentals was shaken, but not broken. So I kept buying and rebuilt and thankfully didn't get left behind. Now we've crashed to roughly $2,000. This overreaction reminds me of that. Very reminiscent start to an ETH bull run like we had in 2020. Doesn't make it easier to stomach, especially for the new folks around here, but I'm happy to buy more of this sub 3,000 ETH. Try to see it as an opportunity and not a stumble. There are bright horizons for ETH ahead. I remember Black Thursday. That was nasty. Yeah. Yep. It was bad. A lot of people got wiped out. There were people that, there was suicides.
There were some long time people that let's just say stopped contributing to our subreddit shortly after that.
There was definitely
that could have been because they no longer existed. Could have been for just getting burnt out and saying never again crypto, right? But for whatever reason, we lost some people there for sure.
It's hard to talk in an Ethereum sub when all of it got taken from you. You know, it's sad, but leverage is a hell of a drug.
I definitely walked some people through some, let's just say, emotional counseling as well. People that I know lost it all, right? So it was hard, but some of us came out of that wealthier.
Yep, it's just part of it. It's such a dangerous market to be farting around in with leverage.
Leverage will fuck you up. It's right there in the rabbit hole sports guide for a reason. I cite that a lot.
Available at tokenomicsexplained.com. MoneyPrinterGoBrBrrr, user MoneyPrinterGoBrBrrr discusses long-term ETH value accrual and gets some great replies from Minimal Gravitas and user PA7X1. MoneyPrinterGoBrBrrr is a duder number 4. And I know minimal gravitas is an OG, and so is PA7X1. I want to look up their scores real quick. Minimal gravitas is a duder 50, and PA7X1 is a duder 86. These are heavy hitters for our community for sure. All right, long-term value according to Money Printer. Lately, I worry about long-term value accrual of ETH. The only mechanism we have in the world of L2s is the burn based on blobs, and that seems weak to me compared to the millions in fees that L2s are raking in. Are there some plans apart from a vague Vitalik post how to get L2s to bring value back to ETH? For example, forcing L2s to use a percentage of their profit to buy ETH and hold, stake, or burn it, or some other mechanism. For example, BNB has token burns. Sol had a lot of locks into infinity from pump.fun. The last episode of the chopping block throws around some good ideas about this if you allow the Sol shilling to go on there. Basically, what I'm worried about is that if ETH wins and scales beyond our wildest dreams, does that actually bring any value to ETH in a world with, say, 20 L2s, the size of Base and Optimism and Arbitrum, where we still aim for transactions to be ultra cheap in a world where ETH absolutely won? Is there some reason for ETH to not trade for $100 USD a piece? Everybody wants to use ETH, yes, but nobody needs to buy it. Glad to discuss any ideas on how to solve this. I've been holding since 2018, and I use ETH every day with little incentive myself to buy more. Minimal Gravitas replies, you can play with the numbers yourself at Ethereum Blob Simulator .netlify.app. I can't post a link for some reason. Yeah, we could probably get that fixed for you, sir. So let's look at your example. Base is currently processing about 108 transactions per second. So use the sliders to set 20 rollups with 108 transactions per second per rollup. You also stipulated cheap fees, and the way we can achieve that is by increasing the number of blobs. There are currently 3 per slot, soon to increase to 6 per slot. Let's increase that target another 4x to 24 blobs per slot. Looking at the outputs, we then have a transaction cost of roughly 15 cents, with a total L2 transactions per second of 2160, which seems very low for an Ethereum as one scenario, but let's go with it for the sake of your question. In order to pay for these blobs, the rollups would be buying and burning about 6,460 ETH per day, about 2.5x more than the daily issuance of around 2,600. Therefore leading to ETH, the asset, being deflationary, even if no one ever uses the L1 ever again. User PA7X1 continues, this logic seems to single out Ethereum as if it was the only chain that needs to be deflationary to have any value. If this logic held any merit, then Bitcoin, Solana, and tons of other chains would also have a negative market cap. Would have a negative market cap. The fact of the matter is that long-term, as in proper long-term, such as decades, net issuance matters and a lot. Short-term, it doesn't. The current price action has nothing to do with the inflationary and deflationary dynamics, and much more with market sentiment and plain old market manipulation. Yep, I'm spelling it out. Ethereum's price is being manipulated. How do I know? Because I called it out, and he has a link to his comment in the daily. And exactly on the day of futures expiration, ETH went up 10% versus BTC. ETH's price is being suppressed via futures. But Ethereum has a mighty powerful weapon under its sleeve. Scaling can and will break the bank. Here's how it works. Ethereum can charge a minimal amount per blob. Today it doesn't, but it can and should implement this change. This amount should be small enough to incentivize growth, but not as small to be negligible. There are 7,200 blocks per day. Ethereum mints around 2,600 ETH per day. If you have n blobs per block, then it suffices that the price of a blob is 2,600 of 27, which would be 7,200 times n ETH to make Ethereum deflationary. For example, with 32 blobs, if a blob costs 0.01 ETH or around 30 USD, then blobs alone can make it deflationary. Release 64 blobs, then it suffices to $15 15 USD per blob. Release 128 blobs, then it's $7.50 USD. And that's just the blobs. We can and we are scaling the L1. The point is, we have to double down or triple down in the scaling roadmap. Go ham. Unleash unprecedented scaling that no one can compete with, because the only way to replicate that level of throughput is by following the roll-up scaling roadmap. Set a minimum floor price for a blob that is very competitive and eat the market. Jesus, this is why I freaking love this daily thread. There's so many freaking smart people that just post like just great content like that. Great job. All right, blabbering on. Here we go. The swingman zooms out for some perspective. The swingman is a duder number 9 for this week. Perspective is key. Zooming out is key. History is key. And then he shows the daily historical prices of ETH for the last 5 years. Let's open this bad boy up and see what we got. There we got it right here. The last 5 years. That's a Yahoo Finance link. Okay. but we got it. So you can see open and close and all that stuff. Market stuff. Good. Going down memory lane helps. May 2021 was a wild time. Big momentum. 4K gets touched for the first time after some horrific years. One might even say much bleaker times than now. Then over the next couple of months, ETH bleeds a little more than 50%. I remember the comments. Not sure if those dailies are still available, but if they are, might be worth a read. Talk about despair. I can't tell you how many times, quote, it was over. Then 4 months later, a new all-time high. And even then, it was hellish getting there. Now the social layer is probably more energized, so it seems more emotional. And maybe there is a real competitor out there eating away at the market share now. But ask anyone who remembers Neo or EOS or any of those air quote ETH killers, how real it felt back then. They'll tell you it was real. Time has told that story a few times, and with enough patience, time will tell that same story again. Stick to the fundamentals. ETH is the people's coin. It's decentralized in ways that no other blockchains can or will be. If you're here, you know this. Manipulation is real. The crypto markets are becoming bigger with each cycle, but still not big enough to stop manipulation at the levels we're seeing now. X is a smallish world, crypto Twitter, with a lot of loud noises and filled with drama. I don't know when ETH will have its day, but I know it will. There hasn't been a single thing fundamentally that's changed that has made me think Ethereum has lost its way. I'm saying, this is me personally, I feel like we're having our day. I could give an absolute shit about the ratio against Bitcoin. We're having our day. It doesn't feel like if you're only focused on the price, but if you open up the hood,
it doesn't feel like it because everyone comes into our cryptocurrency and craps on ETH with like every other comment. If this thing rallies, it's going to be the like most hated rally ever.
It's
right?
like the Chiefs going back to the Super Bowl.
It's popular to hate on the chain right now, but like even if so we've got posts on inflation and blobs and fees, and this is like how ETH gets passed around, how we get to be deflationary again, etc. But validators should be some decently strong hands, right? People spending ETH for gas, they had to buy that somewhere, and then it transfers to a validator. Does a validator, who is obviously someone who is okay with holding ETH because, well, they're a validator, right? So are they someone that's likely to turn around and sell it immediately, or do they compound it? Yeah. Well, just given their bias of holding ETH, being long on it by being a validator, you think they're going to have stronger hands than average. So if we're transferring 3% of this supply or something to stronger hands every year, this should be something that sponges ETH up, even if it's not strictly deflationary. Of course, I wish it was 5% deflationary. We had that much demand, and blobs were, I could get a transaction through for pennies, and we still had so much demand that was sharply deflationary. That'd be a wonderful story. But I think there's going to be a supply-demand imbalance for block space as we continue to scale up to 10,000 transactions per second, right? We're going to scale that up, and then we hope that the demand shows up over time. But until it does, there's going to be some depressing, if all you're caring about is the inflation number, there's going to be some depressing stats where, guess what, it's not zero. But that still doesn't mean that the ETH isn't going to stronger hands, which is all that's required for the market to correct, right? I mean, hell, like last year with the restaking airdrop bonanza, right? And with some smart trading and liquidity farming, I was up like 20-something, 30% on my ETH stack last year. Like, if everyone was doing that, that's just pure ETH, holding ETH exposure and then compounding that to other things. If everyone was doing that, we'd already be in supply shock territory. just use your ETH, make more ETH, compound your ETH. Guess what? You're going to run out of ETH pretty soon if everyone's doing that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm so aligned with you, Logris, on this. I made a post yesterday, quite a long post about it, and ended up having a long back and forth with someone regarding this about and then one of the posts that you even read earlier, JT, was kind of talking about this, as well as like the amount of value that goes from the L2 to the L1, right? Because it's done by design apparently, right, with the idea of to incentivize more layer 2s to come into existence so that they can run more volume back to the layer 1. But for me, I would definitely like to see more L1 value capture, and especially when it comes to the burn, I'm not actually sure that it's the right way forward. Like, we could basically replace the burn, eliminate the consensus level reward, and instead put the base fee and the tips, right, that go back to the validators. And I have a fairly good insight into being a solo staker, as I am one, and like what the rewards are, because right now the rewards are very they're not good, right? They're not good. And so the idea here is, what if instead of the burn, we basically keep inflation flat by eliminating any new emissions, and then recycle all of those fees back into the validators, who then are receiving a higher yield on their stake, right? Which makes staking more attractive if it has a higher yield, meaning people are more likely to put their tokens into LSTs and restaking tokens, which requires even more ETH to be bought, right? Which then pushes the price up, which then causes this positive price feedback loop of, price goes up, okay, I see the price is going up, let's buy into it. Rewards are better in the validators because the validators are receiving higher rewards, who are then also, as you were mentioning, sort of less likely to sell, right? It like creates buy pressure from the FOMO side, while also, yes, it will increase the amount of sell pressure than we currently have, because the rewards going to the validators are released and can be dumped at any time. But I do think that those are the people, like solo stakers themselves, are the people that are less likely to dump their ETH. And the LSTs and restaking modules are the fees are recompounded directly into them, so they're not being dumped anyway, right? And so I think it's worth a discussion of at least seeing if this, and maybe I'm just very too short-sighted in this, right? Because of the price action we've seen over the last few years has been, not very exciting, and maybe it needs to be viewed out of that 10, 20, 30 year long perspective, and I'm failing to see that. But I don't know, just my 2 cents, kind of riffing on what you just were going into.
So the zooming.
Yeah, I'm just talking about supply flows, right? Like, for a while we were dropping supply of ETH on centralized exchanges from something like 6 million ETH per year. We've got, according to a website I go to for this, we're at around 19 million right now. So had we kept up that rate, there'd be a supply shock in 3 years, but it flattened out. I'm like, okay, so a bunch of people are exiting and putting the money on centralized exchanges where they're making zero on it. Why? Like, just, if you're going to park it somewhere, unless it's actively on the limit sell order and you're trying to get out within like a couple $100 price swing, just keep the money in interest-bearing form. It's not a hard thing to do. Go deposit to Aave, right? Like, it's not a difficult proposition.
Maybe it's inspiring less confidence in it, because to be honest, I used to have several validators. I'm down to one. I've exited most of my validators.
Well, yeah, that doesn't mean you go and park it on centralized exchanges, right? Like,
Right,
I have plenty of ETH, but I have it in LP positions that are making 2, 3, 4 times what validators are making.
Exactly. Just finding higher yield, because
they need to change the issuance curve. Justin Drake was talking about this, where there's hard evidence that we need to change the issuance curve.
Right.
But I think that quibbling over 1% deltas here and there is probably not the main thing keeping the ETH price where it is. I think there's recycled just misinformation. I would love if we could get a community project to make an AI to fight that, right? Just train it on responses from Justin Drake and, the best of our subreddit, people like you and me and, DC Investor and people that like Paulinius, right? That have really done the research, that have good facts and present them cleanly. Train it on that data, get a couple thousand responses, make a bot, and then anyone can app that to get a reply or something, right? And then we pay for the inference out of like our community staking rewards, right, from our treasury. If we could pay 3,000-4,000 in processing fees a year on that, or have it so it only responds to people that hold our NFT or something, right? So it can't be spammed and just spend our money frivolously.
That's a good idea.
I think we could do a lot of good with something like that, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Because otherwise, there's so much bullshit, and it takes 10 times the effort to dispel bullshit than it does to spam it. And there's people that have a clear and obvious agenda, just hate on ETH, right? And so, like, just how many times over seriously a
coordinated.
decade now.
It's absolutely.
Have you
I'm
heard of
convinced
Vitalik
it's
Pre-Mine
absolutely
scam, right?
Oh my god, it's so bad.
Like, what the fuck is that? Right? How many times have you, even today, are you going like, oh, Ethereum, it's $30 transactions. It's at one gwei. It's like 20 cents. What are you talking about, right? And that's for mainnet. Go use an L2. It's sub penny. Like, it's cheaper than Solana to go and use Base right now.
So
what are you talking about? Ethereum's too expensive to use. So just basic facts that there's so many people that want to shit on the chain that have clearly never used the chain. Like, obviously, if you get in a conversation with them, they don't even have a private key. They don't even have an EOA. And they're just sitting on these like crypto forums, like HBAR go to $10. Like, okay, sure, bro. Whatever. Show me the adoption, right? Where's the stablecoin supply?
Luckily, those people are easy to find, JT and I.
But they're prolific. They just, like, they're not even on Ethereum subreddit. Like, they just go over to our cryptocurrency or our crypto markets or whatever, like else on crypto Twitter, and they just spew bullshit day in and day out to try and like suppress other altcoins, protect their tribe, and pump Algorand or ADA or ADAR or whatever, up to, so they can pump their backs, right? And it's so annoying because there's so many of them that if you're on there and just reading through whatever posts, eventually you're going to get exposed to this stuff and diluted with it, and it's going to set your bias as you're entering and learning about the space. So you're going to start with a negative connotation of Ethereum because there's just this wave of content, right? That you get saturated in if you're exploring this space honestly. It doesn't affect as much on the company and, where people have to do a professional investigation. It doesn't affect that much, but it does affect the vibe. And so there's been a shift of really just kind of dark, cloudy thoughts to, our Ethfinance, even our Ethereum today, people that just like ratio down, bad, coin never recover, like L2s are parasitic. Whole thing is a bad experiment. Devs need to pivot, maximize centralization, right? Market doesn't care about all the virtues of Ethereum. You hear this FUD again and again and again, and it's
99% of the
like
time
a toilet that
by
won't flush,
fund
right? It
managers.
just spins around and around and around. And I wish we could do something economically effective to fight it.
So I wanted to make a point. I'm just going back to the original thing when he talks about NEO or EOS or the ETH killers. And it's like, you stick around long enough, you're going to find the value accrual. We've got a problem, like you said, with messaging in the space and absolute FUD taking over different social circles. If you go and look at the market cap of so many of these coins out there and compare them to actual companies in the real world, you guys were just arguing back and forth, not arguing, but articulating back and forth already, like a bunch of different use cases for like DeFi. And we're ad nauseum. We can go on and on about ETH. When you look at like, what does XRP do to actually be if you did a fully diluted market cap of XRP, it would be the size of Samsung, Toyota, IBM, Morgan Stanley.
And the chain went down last week. And it had an actual outage.
It does
and
nothing.
No one even noticed.
But what can you even do?
We noticed. I saw someone point it out.
It's just, it's incredible.
Exactly. So it's nothing. You can't blame the devs when we're delivering and shipping stuff, and then XRP is soaring and does nothing. Like literally, there's a chain outage and no one even notices.
The thing is, God forbid Ethereum were to go out, like the price would dive. Right,
it would dive like 50%. Yeah, if we had like an hour outage of some technical glitch from some, multi-client miscommunication or something, right?
Doesn't happen though.
It doesn't happen. We have 100% uptime. We have a perfect record, so they have to find something else to. People like the price is moving one way, and people have to explain that, and they latch onto some narrative or other, right? And there are more sellers than buyers for whatever reason. We can certainly try and change the narrative to improve that. But the real answer is we need to find a structural buyer for about 20 to 40 billion ETH, and then the price will go up just fine.
And
So
it's happening right through institutions.
is that could yeah, exactly. That could be institutions. Like we just had a couple $100 million buy from ETFs the other day. Like over time, we're gonna find a buyer for 19 million ETH because it's either gonna be the validators holding it and people spent it on gas and gave it to them. Basically, their gas might have gotten burned, and other ETH got issued. But my point stands, right? There's a transfer of ETH that's happening systemically from a combination of yield and from a combination of usage of the chain. And so eventually, the ETH on centralized exchanges, whether this year or 4 years from now, is going to drop to a pivotally low level. It's just down only, right? So until I see that thing spike from that 20 million level up to like 40 million, because people are offloading it to sell and distribute, this is just an accumulation period. And it sucks that we're in an accumulation period while Bitcoin's, tripled, quadrupled in price, but that's what's happened. They found a structural buyer. It's MicroStrategy and ETFs.
And is it?
And
I think the MicroStrategy, what if that ends up being a plate spinning contest at a circus too, though? Because if that thing,
there's no guarantee that's up only forever. But I'm just saying they found a structural buyer, and if not for those two buyers, they wouldn't, like, the price would still be at 20-something thousand, right? They wouldn't be up either. Yeah. So where is our structural buyer? I think that if these funds, the people that have the pension fund and they're like, okay, there's a new asset class and I have to distribute 1% of my assets to it. I'm legally obligated to. They're not looking at ETH at all. They're not looking at the fundamentals of the blockchain. They're not looking at adoption curves. They're not looking at yield. They're not looking at issuance. They don't give a fuck about any of this stuff. They go, well, I have
to within their ears as well. Like Bitcoiners have been working on that for ages, right?
It's not even due to the effort of the Bitcoin. It's just, this is the biggest one. I can satisfy my legal obligation. They don't even want to buy it, right? But they have to for the risk rules that their pension funds, like, they're legally obligated to. So what is the least work you can do? Bitcoin ETF. No one got fired buying IBM. There, right? Like, doesn't matter if it's a pet rock. Doesn't matter if it has any transaction throughput at all. The only thing they care about is the price decorrelation between commodities and stocks in this, right? And bonds in this. And so it's obligated to be a part of their portfolio. And so they shove money in. And so by virtue of having the highest price, they got the hundreds of billions of dollars of inflow. And that was that. It had nothing to do with the blockchain. It had nothing to do with any fundamentals. They didn't look. They didn't care. They just put the money into the least work thing. No one got fired by buying IBM. Done, right? And so they want to focus their time on the other 99% of the assets in their portfolio. They're not spending almost any time looking at, Bitcoin versus ETH. At best, they might do like a market cap split or something, right? Because that's justifiable. But they don't know or give a shit. And I have talked to people at those ETFs about who their buyers are and why. This is like direct from the mouth of people who know. So, and all the stuff that we're talking about with what does Ethereum need to do better, it's bullshit. For exactly the reason that you bring up, JT. XRP did nothing at all and soared off of community speculation. Bitcoin had to do nothing at all to soar off of the inflows from the ETFs. And
Cardano's still fully diluted market cap is north of 30 billion. Why?
Yep. Let's say that something like the downside of this is either we get some like MicroStrategy that crashes, right? And that could cause the next bear market, or we get something where Bitcoin has a halving or two, and then Justin Drake is right. The security is now insufficient, and someone says, look how much I can hurt the US if I was to short the ever-living fuck out of Bitcoin and then double spend attack and rug Coinbase, right? I'm going to time bandit this, reorg the chain, deposit to Coinbase, then get my deposit approved or go to Thorchain or something and swap it out to some other blockchain, get my deposit approved, and then reorg the chain. It never went to Coinbase. It went to my other UTXO address, right? I still have the Bitcoin. And then people see that and it's at enough size. Let's say it's like $10 billion of Bitcoin. And then they profit off of this short, right? The funds might get reverted or whatever, but like they profit off of basically tanking the asset to hundreds of billions of dollars. And it took, 10 or 20 billion to pull this off. That's already the case today. You could do that today. Now let's have the security budget once, twice, 3 times, right? Who's being degen, right? The people that change their security budget without any notion of whether they have enough security today. That is degen. Saying, let's just say I had a company. I have a gold vault and I've got, 100 security guards. In 4 years, I'm going to fire 50 of them. Now, in 4 more years, I'm going to fire another 50 of them. Well, what if there's too much gold in the vault relative to the number of guards? Doesn't matter. We're going to fire 50 of them. Right now, I've got 25 guards. But we just got twice as much gold in the vault. Well, I'm going to fire 12 more. And we're going to keep doing this until something interesting happens, right? Who's being degen here? It's clearly the Bitcoin chain, right?
Yeah, it's really bad. I wonder what it's like. I think in their culture they have they're idea that Bitcoin is finished. It's it's done. We don't need to change the security. We can't change the security because it's what makes Bitcoin Bitcoin. And I wonder how that will clash with the reality of the security.
It'll clash with reality when someone reopens the chain, right? It is going to happen sooner or later. So Bitcoin absolutely will have to hard fork. If nothing else, there is a time overflow bug that's already in the code. And if it hits that date, the chain will just not function. It will just stop right there, dead in its tracks on that day. So you have to hard fork. There's no question that you will have to hard fork. When you hard fork, do you also want to hard fork in maybe quantum security? Do you also want to hard fork in and change the issuance rules to have a tail issuance? When that happens, it's kind of like an Article 5 convention in the US, right? States start to ratify something and then you get together and you have your Article 5 convention. Once it's convened, you can change anything you want. You could get rid of Congress. Once that's convened, you can change anything you want. So once it's guaranteed there will be a hard fork, now it's a huge political process to figure out what goes into it. And when you change, I suspect, call it tinfoil hattery. I suspect they will eventually patch in an opcode to Bitcoin to validate a fraud proof.
That's what they want to do. I think that's what. I think that's not even tinfoil hatty. I think I was lurking in some subreddit once, and I think it was yeah, we're gonna have the functionality of Ethereum, but without the gas cost, by using fraud proofs, by basically doing the computation off chain and then, or not fraud proofs. I mean CK snarks, by having the computation off chain and then proving it on chain.
Yes, that's the dream goal, is basically to be able to build all the L2 style functionalities. You go to Linnea, for example, and they're doing with BitVM. But if you had a hard BitVM is just another multi-sig bullshit thing, right? At the end of the day, there's a fraud proof window, and if you can censor the chain for long enough in order to get through the fraud proof window, you can basically rug anything that's been deposited to BitVM multi-sig, right? It's not an answer. It doesn't actually validate on chain. It just takes attestations to the BitVM members. So what they actually need is fraud proofs on chain, and you can do that. And if you have to hard fork anyway, and they will, that'll go in. When that happens, now you can actually trustlessly bridge Bitcoin to other chains. Trustlessly. Because right now, you can Thorchain maybe swap, but guess what? That went bankrupt. You can, right? Every type of bridge is like WBTC or CBBTC. They're all trust bridges, right? But once you can trustlessly bridge Bitcoin, now you can use Bitcoin as an asset. What do you need Bitcoin the network for?
Yeah, you just said make Bitcoin useful on Ethereum.
It's a shitty network. Why use that? Right? Just go and use a secure network instead and have your Bitcoin the asset, right? Once you can bridge it off actually trustlessly and be guaranteed mathematically you're not going to get rugged by doing so, why not go earn yield? What do you account abstraction will let you pay your gas in Bitcoin eventually, Sure. The future of Bitcoin is that there won't be a Bitcoin network.
Eventually, it's today you can use wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum to pay for your
Yeah,
transaction
but it's
fees.
trust bridged, and so you're trusting Justin Sun to not rug you. It's kind of dubious, right?
It's kind of
Oh, wrapped Bitcoin is from Trust. It's from Tron.
It's from Gemini or something, and then Justin Sun
okay.
has his hands in there now as a major player. So
Oh,
I
no.
don't know that you really want to go down the WBTC. And right around the time of that announcement, they launched Coinbase
Oh,
launched CBBTC
actually.
because guess what? Justin Sun just got his hands on all the wrapped Bitcoin, right? So
I actually remember that. Yeah, there was like a controversy around wrapped Bitcoin.
yep, you're
Yeah,
welcome.
I remember
Yeah, so you can use wrapped Bitcoin, but right? There's other. I know
Yeah.
Badger was doing some with IBBTC, but that's basically kind of like a DAI version thing where you mint BTC using another collateral, and so yeah, it's not pure. What Bitcoin's been seeking for decades, and I've seen many in the Bitcoin Renaissance, or I was working at the VCs. I've had to review many of these projects. So they're looking for some type of pure BTC yield. And so you look at Babylon and like it raises crazy amounts of money, even though they overpromise and mathematically cannot deliver on what they're promising. And that's a known fact. This isn't a mystery, right? You look at like Lombard BTC, right? You look at things like Linnea, right? I already mentioned. Like there's
it's super funny how
right?
you mentioned native yield in Bitcoin. I think even like a lot of Bitcoin maximalists are even against that because they're like everything yield bearing is a scam. Everything ETH staking is a scam.
The valuations show that people are perfectly happy to go and try and make money on Bitcoin. The problem is every type of system that I've seen proposed has underlying trust assumptions that make it like they're like, oh, we're going to do all this L2 stuff on Bitcoin, but ultimately it's backed by like a BitVM system, and they inherit all the trust assumptions of that, and so it doesn't work, right? Or they're like, oh, we're going to do L2 on Bitcoin, but it's actually not an L2 in the slightest. It's actually a side chain that kind of like uses Bitcoin hash exhaust hashes, right? For secondary security or something, but it's basically like a Polygon sidechain. It's like, well, it's an L2 in the sense that you're lying to your users and they have no idea like what these terms mean, but it's not.
Yeah, it's really weird that people use Polygon. It's like ETH Denver last year, they had like their sign up for Polygon, and I'm like, what? Polygon is a sidechain.
Polygon does have an L2 now. There is a ZK-proof chain of Polygon, but it's separate from the main Polygon chain. It's still a sidechain.
Yeah. And there was some controversy there as well. It was like, I think like Polygon acquired some L2 or like some ZK L2, and then they just said like, oh yeah, we're the first ones or something like that. It was really funny. But it's like one guilty pleasure of mine is watching Bitcoin maximalists talk about Ethereum. And I just love in my head just going through like, oh my god, this is so wrong. Yeah,
I've been at some dinners with like actual Bitcoin maxis, right? Where I've been hosted and been talking with them, and it's funny because they'll bring up some FUD, and I'll just dispel the FUD with facts. And I don't try to be like pro Ethereum in those conversations. I'm just like, look, there's plenty of reasons to hate ETH, but let's at least hate on ETH for something that's true, right? And and I can just spend the entire dinner basically tearing down all the misconceptions they have, and then they're left kind of like, well. Wait, why do we hate ETH again, right? At the end of the day, they leave a little bit more confused, like all that mission accomplished.
You know the scene in Idiocracy when the main characters sit around the dinner table and they're all arguing about all the Bitcoin maximalists are the people in Idiocracy at the dinner table, and
Brondo, it's got what plants crave.
It's what plants crave, you feel like the only person that ever read and actually understood anything about Ethereum, and now you gotta.
No, these were people that were otherwise totally educated, but they did, like, for example, one thing that came up was social consensus, and I was like, well, the problem with Bitcoin, one of the problems that the counter FUD I had was if Ethereum goes through a soft fork through its social consensus, it takes away the ETH that people use to attack the chain. If Bitcoin gets attacked, you can't take away their miners. They'll just attack. You go through your hard fork, whatever, and you revert the Satoshi wallets getting hacked. Guess what? they just do it again tomorrow. They still have the miners, right? You didn't really take that from them. So, like, if we have to go through this social consensus kind of layer, at least we come out stronger in the end. And if that means that all the US users lost their Ethereum, well, that sucks. But guess what? It's for the health of the world, right? It's for the health of the
It's really interesting.
Let's go ahead and run through the rest of these here. We're getting long on time.
Yep, sorry.
nixorokish is asking for feedback around communication for the all core devs calls. She writes, I've been posting threads about the planned agendas of Ethereum's all core dev calls a couple of days ahead of the calls so that builders and any users affected can be prepared if they need to advocate for or against anything coming up. Also, some summary items every other week, because Tim is usually so prompt with his summaries that there's not a lot of reason for me to duplicate them. They get okay engagement, I guess, but I'd really like for it to be more accessible to more people so that Ethereum's development is more visible. Would love for people to understand how wild it is that hundreds of devs are working together with an informal coordination system and shipping tech that's never existed in the world before. Would love to hear what you, as just an Ethereum passing through the daily, would like to hear more about in terms of Ethereum development. What else would help give you more context for these kinds of calls? Anything that confuses you about the ACD calls or process or thing you want to know about? Here's some examples. And she lists some tweets here. We can open up a couple of them here. Take a look. So there it is, a summary here. She's got a thread. It talks about the agenda and everything else. Nixo, hats off to you for doing this, and definitely drop by the daily. I want to see what some of the comments were underneath. So Nixo is a duder number 71. Haurog responds, hey, it's awesome that you're doing this. I always had the problem to find the right stream to watch it on the day of the ACD call and never found the meeting agenda in GitHub ahead of time. With the Ethereum Magician threads, this is solved now. They only do this since last summer, right? I like your approach to prepare the reader a bit to what to expect from the call. Going through the meeting agenda and discussion manually can be quite tedious. I am not a regular Twitter user as I cherish the little bit of sanity that I have left, so I will probably not see your posts in time. Maybe I have to make it a habit of checking your post on Thursday before a call to see if I'm interested to watch it or not. Otherwise, you could also post a Twitter thread in the daily here. I would appreciate it. I love this. Yeah, I think this is great. Edmund Edgar, fellow moderator, also responded as well. So getting some feedback there is great. Okay, Edmund said, any chance you could just post it in line here? Links to Twitter threads don't work anymore. Links to Twitter threads don't work anymore. Threads. You can only see the first thing in the thread. A link to a normal website would be fine. Okay, that's a good idea too. And yeah, also not everybody uses Twitter. So thank you so much, Nick. So yes, I agree with Haurog and Edmund there. Good job. cryptOwOcurrency is a top 10 duder explains specific problems for Bitcoin in a post-quantum world. Well, hello. Bankless did a recent episode on this where they brought in a quantum computing researcher. The TLDR is Bitcoin is screwed. Because number one, everyone knows Satoshi's public keys because public key hash transactions came after his time. This means his coins are always vulnerable unless the community soft forks to burn all the coins suspected to be Satoshi's or other early miners or holders, which violates the fundamental property rights of the network. Ooh, man. Number two, Satoshi has no seed phrase because seed phrases were invented after his time. So there is no hypothetical way to rekey his addresses. His addresses will always be vulnerable to his quantum insecure public keys. Number three, the quantum compute race destabilizes mining because quantum computers are extremely centralized under government actors. If I recall correctly, quantum computers only speed up true mining by a bit, but stealing Satoshi's keys will represent a massive pool of additional, air quote, mining rewards. Ethereum is fine because straightforward post-quantum upgrades are on the roadmap. The cryptographic primitives that Ethereum uses, such as ECDSA, BLS, and maybe there's another one or two primitives I'm not thinking about, all of them have decent post-quantum drop-in replacements that will be mature and performant within the next few years. Everyone on Ethereum uses seed phrases and have since the beginning. We can invalidate the quantum insecure public keys and ask everyone to use their seed phrases to rekey their addresses with the new post-quantum public keys. Or maybe it's post-quantum proofs, technically speaking, but it behaves just like a private public key scheme. I love it. Oh, man, that's fantastic. Okay. I did not know that about Bitcoin and quantum computing. Adankairo Daily DevCon number 65, the summary of Memecraft, effectively communicating crypto concepts. The summary. This is day number 65 of our DevCon Education Listen Along series. The summary was, during the Ethereum Developer Conference, a presentation titled Memecraft, Narrative Dynamics in Crypto, delves into the significance of memes in crypto culture. The speakers discuss how memes are crucial in shaping culture within the crypto community. They explore the origins of memes and how they serve as bundles of information with diverse layers of meaning, creating powerful messages. Additionally, they highlight how memes influence behavior, market dynamics, and even government policy, exemplified by figures like Elon Musk using meme culture for impact. The talk underscores the importance of understanding memes' roles in shaping identities, ideologies, and power dynamics within the crypto space. Thank you very much. And that, my friends, wraps up episode number 98. Thank you once again to Markus Haas from Ethereum Phone. I call it Ethereum Phone, for stopping by today. ethOS. ethOS. You can pre-order yours at freedomfactory.io. Hopefully Steve in Colorado will be able to shove one in a box for you at some point. Markus, thanks for stopping by and hanging out with us for the entire time. I think we've had our first guest that stayed awake for the entire call.
That's not true. We've had a few, but nonetheless.
Well, sure glad that you could be here. And thanks again for Treebeard helping out with moderation. We had so many people we had to kick off today. It's just, and anyway, so go Chiefs, going back to the Super Bowl third time. And man, it's been a journey. I will see you in Denver, Markus.
Yeah,
we have to link up somehow, Logri and the rest of the Mavericks.
So excited!
Yeah, I am too. It's my.
I already have I have like a countdown on my phone where I can see like in 16 days I'm going to Denver. I'm super excited.
And so, are you U.S. based or are you overseas?
I'm overseas. I'm in Vienna, Austria.
Okay, so it wasn't just a video. It wasn't just a video on Twitter for your device. That's actually where you live too. Beautiful city.
Yeah,
I'd love to visit there someday. I don't get to go to Europe near often enough. But if you haven't ever had a Kansas City style barbecue before, you'll be sure to get some from me. I drive in from Kansas City with my smokers in the back of a minivan. And it's a good time, bro. It's all from the heart, man. It's my love language. So hope to see you at one of those meetups, and we'll talk to you later.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
All right,
this was a great time. Yeah,
absolutely excellent. Right. Well, on behalf of Ethfinance and the EV Mavericks DAO, my name is JT. Cheers and big hugs from Kansas City.